Most people in life are looking for how to make a life worth living and how to make a retirement worth having. I begin most of my audio casts this way, and yet there's someone who continues to edit my work. I'll have a 15-minute audio file, and all of a sudden it'll become 10. It doesn't make any sense, and someone is immorally and illegally interfering with my intellectual property and, frankly, what God is gifting me to say in sort of an ad-lib form. It's somewhat pre-thought and premeditated in the way that I look at life, but the truth is when I prepare a script, it's my script, so I can tell what's missing and what's not. In life, we have moments of time to show someone how we feel, and the only way to do that is to tell people in person most of the time. The problem is that there are people who lie, who steal, who cheat other people out of their lives. I've been experiencing that a great deal. It began maybe 5 years ago with someone deleting all of my photos on Twitter. I'm pretty sure it was an illegal and immoral sibling who got into my account that was being utilized when I didn't have a computer at my mother's house. And automatically, these new programs we have, especially Explorer from Microsoft and others, will hold our passwords whether we want them to or not. Even when we tell them not to, they can still do that. But that's not the point. My point is that we have rights, and in this land we have rights. Our rights are our rights, and your rights or someone else's rights are their rights or your rights. Do you understand what I'm saying? That our rights begin and end with what the Lord provides us, of course, in the Ten Commandments for those of us who have a faith. Whether we're pagan, whether we are Christian, whether we are Lutheran, whether we're Methodist, whether we're Catholic, whether we're any other form of delineation that came from God as religion. Whether we enjoy the Kabbalah, like a girl I met the other evening, and is a Jew coming from Judaism and Judas mysticism, which is basically what that is. But the truth is, there are moments of time when we can tell someone the important things of our life. But if the person is not in our life, then we don't owe them any explanations. We don't owe them anything at all. And yet there are people who are relatives or who are strangers to us who literally think they have rights to monstrously get involved in our records. Getting into our records is an immoral and illegal act. It is not lawful to take on someone else's personal identity. I have worked very hard to create a certain online identity, and yet I'm finding that someone in my sibling set or their spouse has violated federal law by pretending to be me and starting to change my lawful name online and off. It is immoral, and it is illegal, and frankly, they should go to jail for it. Now, if it's not them, the only other person who could possibly be interested in doing something like that is the sheriff that stole all my birth certificates, stole my social security cards, and literally has been violating my rights every single minute of the day for the past, how long? Now, if I say this, the people in the mental health and physicians group are going to say that's not possible. Actually, it is technically possible. We see it every single day with person of interest cameras, and this television show, Person of Interest, was to kind of highlight for people that there are literally cameras all over town. We no longer have privacy in the land. Now, there's some good news for that, in that in theory we are, safer. But here's the problem. Just about any Chinese child that comes in today to America, and any Indian child who comes in today, or any child from a somewhat sophisticated third world nation, knows how to hack a computer system. I literally had a 5-unit security system that I bought with my own money that I worked for in my home, and I kept finding that someone was using it to voyeur in on my life. I virtually never got up at the time that most people did. I stayed up and I worked in the middle of the night. I used the lights off to conserve energy, and yet the apartment complex still still charged me the same amount of money for my electricity, despite the fact I lived for several months without any electricity really at all. The problem is today we have people who are lazy in their work. They don't care about other people's rights because they want to be Lord and Savior in the world. All they've done is destroy a family. All they've done is destroy their relationship to God, and all they've really done is put themselves facing hell when they pass into the spirit realm. You see, I can say I know something about passing in the spirit realm because the truth is I have died once. And while I may not be the most handsome fellow in the world, and I may not be the most tall fellow in the world, and I may not be the biggest fella in the world, but I do know what my rights are. And my rights are my rights. My rights to privacy are my rights to privacy. My right to have freedom of movement without someone telling someone where I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing is my right. And yet, we have a transportation company in this community that's participating in violating those civil rights. We also have law enforcement officers who are just driving by, pretending like they're on their route. I don't think so when it happens almost to a T regularly, nearly daily, almost several times a day. We have to pay attention to the fact that numbers don't lie. Now, people often say that, it's just in the numbers when they're trying to build a business. No, it's not. It's in the relationships. You see, I had a very successful Japanese language program for a very number of years, probably 15 some years. But when I lost my late spouse, I didn't want to continue that program. I had a wonderful close of that program with a young man whose name is Dan, and he was a great kid, and now a wonderful college student and a young man. Most of my kids, when they left, wanted to do something for us in the gifting of things or in just getting a hug before they left. My first ever student's name is Chris. He's a young man now, and he's living in Hawaii. I'd like to go visit him sometime, so Chris, I may come see you someday. But the truth is that in life, it's those moments with those kids every week, sometimes twice a week, like in the case of Kevin, who really knew who I am based on how they learned very well in my program. I'm not touting my own horn, but in life we have to do that. We have to be able to stand up for our rights and what we are and aren't able to accomplish. And all I know is that someone very horrifically and very monstrously went into my apartment where I was staying after I lost my family and started to delete very important translation documents, literally shred them. And I found a lot of my Japanese language paperwork completely gutted from notebooks. I would like to know what monster in my biological family or in that apartment complex or whoever had a key thought they had the right to go in and pilfer documents that was intellectual property. Do you have any idea how many hours it took myself, my late spouse, and our dear friend Hisako to do all that translation for the manufacturing environments? It's unbelievable. But here's the problem. My siblings failed to help in the times that they should have. They literally are monstrously, even now, after I've been apart from them for months on end, when I just want to find out if my mother is alive, if she's got an illness, or if she's taking enough of her Protandim, that the truth is that they are violating my rights. They are constantly impeding my right to move forward and literally telling me that they're not going to tell me where my storage unit is now. They're not going to tell me where my personal property is now unless I do things their way. Well, I'm afraid under federal law that's called blackmail. And I am not going to be blackmailed over property or things. What's important in my life is God, my person that I love, and frankly, her family. Beyond that, my biological family means absolutely nothing to me because they are liars and thieves of my life. And I have no interest whatsoever in participating in their community or their life or their families at all. They've more than proven that they're not worth it, and frankly, that's what we do in life. We move on when people don't take care of themselves. There are other people who have lied on my name. There's one girl in particular that I love very much, but she's continued time after time to lie on my name. It makes me wonder, did she actually use one of her relationships in the apartment complex to go into my house and start pilfering things? You know, when a man says you may have these things, it means you go to that man and you receive it from him. You don't walk in when he's not there and take things. In life, we have moments of time to tell people how we feel, and I'd love to do that in person with someone, but the bottom line is she's just, I guess, still not mature enough, or possibly God is not pleased with her right now. And I'm pretty sure it's the latter. You see, I do have some spiritual gifts, and it's amazing how I can be told to sit on a street corner just to be there 5 minutes later when the guy who's harassing me drives by in his truck. You see, in life we have moments of time to prove who we are in the world, and I don't have to prove anything in this world. All I have to prove to God is that I love God more than anything else in the world. Second, I love the woman that I love, and third, probably her children, because why? They came from her. As far as my late wife and son, I still care for them greatly, just like I do for my first ever girlfriend in college. But she's moved on. She's got a husband, she's got children, and it's amazing how her kids look like her. But that's not the point. In life, we have moments of time to prove who we are in the house of God, and in the house of God, people do not lie, they do not steal, they do not cheat, and they do not destroy another human being's life. At this time, I'm going to close this audiocast to say thanks for listening. If you've got ideas on how to talk about the magic of God, I'm all ears because my presentations will be launching this summer and heading all the way through fall and winter. I'm looking for pastors and organizations, particularly in the Judaism realm and particular Kabbalah centers, to talk about my program. And openly, I am willing to train a few of the highest of the high in law enforcement of how to find things like I can. It's a miracle how I do this every day, not at all. It's that because I submit my life to God that I can find what I need to find for my life every single minute. Thanks for listening.